Well, Merry Christmas, everybody. How you feeling? You good? All right, one more time. You good? All right, so glad you guys are here. Hey, my name is Kent. I'm lead pastor here at Epic, and I'm really grateful that you decided to celebrate Christmas with us. We've really been looking forward to this, and my hope is that we're able to help make Christmas a little more special for you this year. Hey, before I forget, hadn't the band just done a great job leading us today, yeah? Oh, and how about that Noel song? Don't you like that song? Isn't that a great song? You know what's cool? I think it's funny is we're like we all love that song, but we don't know what that word means. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, that's a good song. What's it mean? I don't know, but I like it. I like that song. And so I can save you the time of having to Google it later. Let me go ahead and tell you what that word means. So the word Noel actually means birth, and it's used in reference to the birth of Jesus. And what amazes me about Christmas is that today, all around the world, in homes and in churches and in auditoriums and in huts and around trees, billions of people will gather to celebrate the birth of a baby 2,000 years ago. Isn't that crazy? Like, whose birthday gets celebrated for 2,000 years? That's fascinating. Like, why in the world is that the case? Well, it's not because a baby was born. Babies are born every single day. It's because of who that baby was and what that particular baby would one day grow up to do for you and for me and for all of us. Noel, the birth of Jesus, Savior of the world. Now, like many of you, Christmas is my favorite holiday. It's the best. I like Thanksgiving. I really like Thanksgiving because if you do it right, you get to do dinner twice. You know what I'm talking about? Absolutely, love Thanksgiving. But come on, Thanksgiving is really just like the pregame for Christmas. It kicks Christmas off, right? It's true. So Christmas is my favorite holiday. It's my favorite because it makes all 5 of my senses so very happy. I just want to walk you through the list real quick. So the first one is sight, right? You can see Christmas. It's lights and trees and decorations and wrapping paper and ugly Christmas sweaters. I love it all. I can't wait to load my kids up in the car and go driving around some neighborhoods to find those people who decorate their homes like it's an Olympic sport. You know what I'm talking about? I always wonder myself, I'm like, who are these people and how do they have so much extra time and money? Like, what is going on there? Because that stuff ain't cheap, you know? I'm like, wow, that's pretty amazing. So there's the sights of Christmas. There's a taste of Christmas. Did you know you could taste Christmas? You can. It's cinnamon and cider and peppermint and hot chocolate. For some people, the taste of Christmas is actually eggnog. Anybody? See, I don't get that at all. I don't. Looks like you're drinking pancake mix to me. You know what I'm saying? It's like, no, that's not appetizing, right? I just can't bring myself to drink something that's called eggnog. Like, neither of those two things seem like appetizing at all. You know what I'm saying? It's like, those are not good beverages. Egg? No. Nog, I don't know what it is, but I'm absolutely sure I do not want any of that. So that's true. Then there's touch. You can feel Christmas. It's fleece or flannel or cashmere, if you got it like that. It's a warm blanket on a cold winter's night. It's snowflakes gently landing on your skin in an unexpected snow flurry. It's that hug you get from a child on Christmas morning. You can feel Christmas. Then there's the smells of Christmas. It's the scent of the tree, the smell of logs burning in an open fire. It's Christmas cookies when they first come out of the oven. Oh, sweet baby Jesus. You know what I'm talking about? Isn't that the best? It's like I just smell Christmas cookies when they come out of the oven and my taste buds just stand up and just like, ah, it's a good day. It's a good moment. Very excited about that. And then there's hearing, right? There's all the sounds of Christmas. Love the sounds of Christmas. Sleigh bells and laughter. The sound that wrapping paper makes when a gift is being opened, right? Unless you're like that one annoying person who saves the wrapping paper. Who does that? Please, just open the gift so we can move on, all right? That's important. Public service announcement, all right? And then there's the best sounds of Christmas of all, Christmas music, right? Who loves Christmas music? My people. The rest of you are Scrooges, all right? So, love Christmas music. I think it's awesome. In fact, let's just do this. Everybody turn to somebody and share with them what you think is the best Christmas song of all time. Ready? Go. Do it. All right, land the plane. Now, if you said anything by John Legend, Mariah Carey, or Boyz II Men, you are correct. Well done, well played. Good job. Good job. Good job. Good job. If you chose a Christmas carol of some sort, you're not wrong, you're just old. So there's that, all right? So, no big deal. It's okay. It's all right. Now, I think the best Christmas song that was ever written is actually This Christmas by Donny Hathaway. Isn't that a great song? Love that song. There's so many good versions of that song. John Legend, Michael McDonald, Elliot Yamin, The Temptations, so many good ones. I've only ever heard one bad version of that song. Anybody know? Chris Brown. Right? It's so true. Wow, we are like this right now. He's the only one who ever messed it up. You know, I actually said that in church one time, and someone tweeted Chris Brown and told him that I said he's the only one who ever messed it up. Don't do that. This is like Vegas. What happens in church stays in church. Don't get me in trouble with Chris Brown. Don't nobody want to be in trouble with Chris Brown. Don't do that to me. Whew. Now, as much as I love experiencing Christmas in all those wonderful ways, you know what I'm learning? Experiencing Christmas isn't about your senses as much as it's about your soul. Do you know that? It's very little to do with what you see, hear, taste, touch, and smell. In fact, it doesn't have much to do with any of those things, because experiencing Christmas, truly experiencing Christmas, isn't about what happens out here. It's about what happens in here. It's about your soul, it's about your heart, it's about your mind, your will, your emotions. In fact, I think the very best parts of Christmas don't happen out here. No, they happen in here, inside of you. When the real meaning of Christmas and the true message of Christmas, when the real reason for Christmas invades your heart, invades your soul, and begins to change you from the inside out. That's experiencing Christmas. Now, some of you get that because you've had that moment, but others of you are thinking right now, man, I don't know about that. This is really starting to sound like a Hallmark movie. Like, what do you mean? Listen, here's my hope. My hope is that this Christmas, you would have some moments where you find yourself overwhelmed and just in awe of what Christmas is really all about. That amidst all the craziness of Christmas and the crazy moments of Christmas, you would have some holy moments of Christmas. Moments that stop you in your tracks. Moments that take your breath away. Moments that make your heart beat fast again for God. Or maybe even for the very first time. Wouldn't that be awesome? I mean, that's what I want for me this Christmas. Some moments like that. That's what I want for my family. That's what I want for my kids. That's what I want for our church. It's what I want for you. Because that's what I want for everybody. A few months ago, I got to be part of this 3-day personal development workshop type thing. And what was really cool about it was that I got to meet and get to know a bunch of people who had no clue who I was and what I did. And can I tell you how much better conversations are when people don't know that you're a pastor? So much better. I mean, they're just so much better. For once in my life, I didn't get the sanitized, cleaned up version of every story. I got the real story, like the not safe for work version of all the stories. Fascinating. I was just like, woo, what? Woo. It was incredible. What was cool about that, I mean, over 3 days, you really get to know some people. And I got to know more than just their names. I got to know their story. I got to know about their hurts and their habits and their struggles, their hopes, their dreams, their fears. You know my biggest takeaway from that whole experience? It was this. I had no idea how much pain and brokenness and uncertainty the average person just carries around with them through life with no real source of hope. I had no idea how much pain and difficulty and brokenness and uncertainty the average person just carries around with them through life with no real source of hope. And because of that, how so many people just find themselves in a place where they're wandering around through the dark, searching, hoping, desperately, reaching out for answers, for guidance, for something more stable. I mean, it was like person after person, story after story. The circumstances were different, but the stories were all the same. And I remember thinking to myself, I was like, gosh, I don't know how people do it. Like, I just don't know how people navigate life without a real source of hope. Life is too hard, it's too fleeting, it's too unpredictable to just go at it alone and hope for the best. I mean, that just seems crazy to me. And I think part of the reason why it seems so crazy is because that hasn't been my story. You see, I became a follower of Jesus when I was 12 years old. And even though I've had my fair share of pain and struggles and challenges, just like everybody else, I've never felt like I was just wandering around in the dark, because I've never had to walk through any of those things alone, not one of them. My faith has been an anchor for my soul, even in the most difficult of times. A few years ago, my dad, he's in heaven now, but a few years ago, my dad went through cancer. And so for 3.5 years, we stood shoulder to shoulder and went through it with him. I know pain. I know struggle. I know heartache, and I know uncertainty. But I also know that through it all, I was never, ever, ever alone. And so the wind might howl and the storm might rage, but I can still have peace because I know that God is with me. I can't wait to see my dad again. Can't wait. I look forward to the day that we get to be together again. And I have a confidence that we will. It gives me a hope, you know? Here's the thing. You realize that God's never said oops? Not once. He's never stepped away from a situation and be like, well, that didn't go well. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, he's never had a moment that snuck up on him and he's like, I didn't see that coming. That's never happened, not one time. And so because of that, because I know that God is good and that he's great, even if I go through something challenging, I can find hope in knowing that God's still at work. And I can trust that. And I can keep taking steps forward, and that gives me a special kind of confidence. You see, Christmas is the moment in history when God made that possible. Christmas is when God looked down into a broken, busted world, rolled up his sleeves, and decided to do something about it. Christmas is the reason why you and I don't have to wander around in the dark anymore, because Christmas is when God reached down, took humanity by the hand, and introduced us to a new kind of hope. You see, up until this point in the world, before Jesus, hope was just this kind of wishful thinking kind of thing. It's like, I hope that works out. It may not, but I really hope it does. But then in Christmas, God comes along and he fulfills this promise and sends Jesus to be the hope of the world. And so because of that, we don't have to just hope that things work out anymore. No, we can actually hope in someone. We hope in a person. We hope in Jesus. We hope in who he is and what he's done and what he can do. We hope in the promises that he's made. We hope in the fact that he is good. We hope in the fact that he is great. We hope in the fact that he's never been caught off guard. And all of a sudden, when you have that kind of hope, that wishful kind of hope is replaced with a confident kind of hope. And gang, I'm telling you, it's a good day when your hope becomes more than just a wish. You know what I'm saying? And it's Christmas that makes that possible. It's Christmas that gives us someone to hope in. Now, there's 4 different accounts of the Christmas story in the scriptures. It's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. The first 3 are all about the details around the birth of Jesus, right? So there's Mary and Joseph and the angels and shepherds and a manger and all of that, right? That's where you can find all those things. But then John comes along, and John's like, bump that. I'm just going to jump to like why this matters. Like, you can get the details from those other guys. I want to tell you why this is such a big deal. And what's interesting to me is that if anybody could have gotten the details of Jesus' birth, it was John. John was the one who was tasked by Jesus to care for his mother, Mary, after Jesus died. He says, you take care of my mom. And so at any point, John could have been like, Mary, so how'd that go down? Like, what exactly happened? Wait, one more time. How did Joseph respond when you told him that you were pregnant and that God did it? Like, John could have written that down, but I think John had heard that story so many times. I mean, he was with Mary all the time. Every time Mary met somebody new, they were like, Mary. So tell us about that virgin birth. And he'd heard it so many times, he's like, all right, enough. Let me just tell you why this matters. Let me just tell you why this is a big deal. It's almost like he says, all right, so for those of you who just want to know why Jesus being born is important, why it's significant, why 2,000 years later people are going to still be celebrating his birthday, let me go ahead and tell you why that's true. John chapter 1, verse 4. Look how he starts. Here's what he says. In him was life. In him was life. When John sat down to try and put into words who Jesus was and why his birth was such a big deal, he just goes, you know what? In him was life. That's why it matters. That's why it's a big deal. Because those of us who've been searching for the source of life, for those of us who've been searching for the source of hope, for those of us who've been searching for joy and peace and direction and meaning, in him is life. And it's not just life for today, but John's talking about how it's life for today and it's life for eternity. It's life for forever. He's like, hey, listen, for all of you that have been searching and looking for life, not just for right now, but for forever, good news. We found it, or it found us. Either way, you don't have to keep searching anymore. His name is Jesus, and in him was life and hope and peace and purpose and joy and meaning and freedom and goodness and fulfillment and direction, everything you've been searching for, and all those things that promised you life but then never delivered. It's here. You can find it in a person. It's Jesus, the source of life for today and tomorrow. That's why it's such a big deal. And then he goes on, he says this in verse 4, he says, in him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. Now, this was huge, because John is saying, listen, that life that our soul has been longing for, it's not just for a few select people. That's a big deal, because that's what people thought. They were like, oh, Jesus, if he's the real deal, it's probably going to be just for the Jewish people. No, he's like, no, I'm starting to realize this is for everybody. You see, this life that Jesus came to offer, it wasn't just for the religious elite. It wasn't just for those who are well-mannered or well-behaved. It's not just for those who have great marriages and a stellar track record and thriving families. It's not just for those who are powerful and popular. It's not just for those who are born on the right side of the tracks, those with good credit and good grades and a wrinkle-free past. No, this life, this hope, this freedom and goodness and peace, it's for all mankind. Every single person on the planet. You know, they say you can tell a lot about a person by the company that they keep. Isn't that true? They must have really scratched their heads when they tried to apply that to Jesus. Because to Jesus, every person mattered, and he treated every person that way. White collar, blue collar, no collar, the up and in, the down and out, the overlooked, the marginalized, no matter where you come from or what you've done or how dark your past. No, every person mattered to Jesus, and he wanted everyone to have this life that he came to give. He goes on, John says this, verse 5, he says, the light shines in the darkness. Now, by now, John was an old man, and here's what I know about old people. They've seen some stuff. Isn't that true? Old people they've just seen some stuff. They've been around. They've seen it all. They've seen the good, the bad, the ugly. And so because of that, people that are a little bit older, they're no stranger to pain and heartache and difficulty and stress and complexity. I mean, the truth is, you stick around on this planet long enough and you'll dance a day or two with all those things. It's true. That's just part of life. And so I bet John has this moment where he just kind of stops and he says, the light shines in the darkness. And I bet he thought about that darkness. And I bet he took a moment to reflect on just how dark things had been. You see, John probably thought back to when King Herod gave the order for all the baby boys 2 years old and younger to be killed because he was threatened by the birth of this new king of the Jews, this birth of Jesus. And so he tried to eradicate that. John had seen some stuff. I bet he thought back to the day when he stood with his arm around Mary as she watched her son, and he watched his friend die on a cross, falsely accused. John had seen some stuff. I bet he reflected back on the Roman armies when they attacked Jerusalem and how they surrounded the city and left all the people in the city there to starve. John lost friends. He lost family that day. John had seen some stuff. I bet he thought to Rome's leader Nero and how he would stop at nothing to destroy and eradicate the early church, just persecute people in unspeakable ways. John had seen some things, and I bet he thought of his friend Peter and Paul, who had already been executed. And perhaps now John is the last apostle still alive, so John knew the sting of loneliness. You see, John had seen some stuff. But he doesn't stop there. He keeps writing because not only had John seen some stuff, but he knew some stuff. Here's what he said. He says, the light shines in the darkness, but the darkness has not overcome it. And I bet when he wrote those words, a grin just kind of appeared on his face, and he was basically saying this. He's saying, hey, listen, in spite of all the darkness that I've seen, I've been around, I want you to know that there's a light and life that's greater than all that darkness put together. He says, hey, I've seen some stuff. The light shines in the darkness, but you need to know that the darkness has not overcome it. There's a light and life that's greater than all that darkness, and his name is Jesus. You know what I love about light? It does so many amazing things. Like light at its best, it chases away the darkness. Remember when you were a kid and you watched a scary movie and it felt like a million miles between you and the light switch on the wall? But if you could just get to the light switch and just, it's like, oh, okay, all right. Chases away the darkness. Light at its best, you know what it does? It brightens your life, I don't know if any of you are like this, but sometimes I feel like my mood matches the weather. Right? It's gloomy outside. I'm just kind of gloomy inside. But then you have that moment where the sun pierces through the clouds and you're just like, this brightens up your life. Light at its best, it reveals your very next step. And when it's dark, you don't know where to go. You don't want to trip over something. If you got a flashlight or you turn your phone on, you turn the light on, it's like, oh, okay. You can take some steps forward. Light at its best, it guides you home. I don't know how many sailors who've been lost at sea have just followed the light of a star to find themselves safely home. How many hikers lost in the wilderness have spotted a light off in the distance and followed that light home to safety. See, gang, here's my guess. My guess is that this Christmas, there are some of you who are here who just need a light that can chase away the darkness. And you know what that is for you. My guess is that there are some of you that are here who this Christmas, you just need a light that can brighten up your life. It's been gloomy too long. My guess is that there are those of you that are here who you just need a light that can reveal your very next step. What do? This direction, that direction? My guess this Christmas is that there are some of you who just need a light that can guide you home. His name is Jesus. And then at the very end of this book, John tells us why he wrote all this stuff down. Here's what he says. This is Jesus performed many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not recorded in this book. But these are written, or I've written all this stuff down so that you, do you know who you is? You and me and everybody else who was alive then, so that you may what? Believe that Jesus is the Messiah, which means Savior, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. John says, listen, the reason why I wrote all this stuff down is because I want you to have life in his name. Listen, there's going to be some dark days. There's going to be some moments that are dark. There's going to be problems that you can't solve and people who do stuff that you can't control. There's going to be expectations that you'll never, ever be able to meet on your own. But in the midst of all that darkness, and in the midst of all that pain, and in the midst of all that brokenness and uncertainty and your questions and your doubts, I want you to know that Jesus is the light, and there is life in his name. And so for those of you who've spent more time than you care to admit wandering around in the dark, the good news of Christmas is that Jesus is the light, and there's life in his name. For those of you who feel like you're not good enough, don't know enough, haven't whatever enough, you fill in the blank. For those of you who are going through something right now, and you need God to step in and do what only he could do. You need God to make a way where there seems to be no way. For those of you who are beaten and battered and bruised and just need the light to break through the clouds. For those of you whose heart has grown cold, and sadly so is your worship. And for those of you who've been searching and searching and searching for answers, for hope, for guidance, for direction, for peace, for joy, the good news of Christmas to you is that Jesus is the light, and there is life in his name.